Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Morning Market Movers, where we do live analysis for day trading and we take a look at hot spots in the markets for today, April 22nd, Friday, April 22nd. My name is Todd Rich. I am with Nadex. With me, Brian Caprice from Keep Trading Simple. We do have things moving in the markets today, and we're going to get over there quickly. A lot of it in the FX markets. We're seeing weakness in the pound. We'll take a look at that because they had their retail sales numbers that came out last night, overnight. We're seeing weakness in the Aussie dollar, and then there's some interesting comments and the yen isn't moving, but there's some interesting things happening there that Brian and I have never seen before, or at least discussions that we've never seen before. We do have equities a bit mixed, but so we will take a look at all these charts. We're going to take a look at a lot of it's going to be around FX today, and we will take a peek at equities as well, especially since we're still in earnings season. Before we jump over there, I do need to share this disclaimer that trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for everyone, that any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. And this is an educational session. Please do not construe anything Brian or I say as a buy or sell recommendation. We are doing this for your education purposes. And the one currency that I know we're going to definitely be highlighting is the pound. You can see the pound weakness right here on this chart. I mean, it took a bit of a nosedive, and there's a reason for that. But we're seeing pound weakness across the board against all currencies. So. Uh, but let me just go ahead, Brian. I'm going to flip it over to you. Let's get into the news that's moving these markets, and let's take a look at these charts.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of them. We can start from yesterday, and there's a bunch of different things. So Powell finally made some comments. I believe it was in his recorded presentation. Basically, it was the first time he's made a hawkish comment. Now, is it as hawkish as it could have been? Not necessarily, but it was the first kind of acknowledgement of it. And it's one of these things where you go in and you kind of look at it. It's like, all right, what did he say? It may be appropriate, in my view, to be moving a little more quickly. Okay, that's interesting. That's something kind of strange out of him. But he says absolutely essential that we tame inflation. Again, very very strong words. And a 50 basis point hike is possible for May. Like, oh,
He hedged himself.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, 50 I think is what the market's expecting. But the fact that he made the very aggressive comment is big. Now this is he had and again had the expectation inflation would peak around now, which is kind of I think what's driving it further, saying that hey, listen, if I had the expectation, that means I don't have it anymore. That means it's going to continue, which means we have not peaked, which again means that they failed at their first meeting. I want to see actual progress on inflation coming down. Again, everything they've done has been ineffectual. So again, he's acknowledging that we're going to get expeditiously more to neutral rates. And again, we can't fix supply problems. Again, got to put the blame somewhere else. It's not our problem, but yes, you control the other side of it. Um, and it's clear that globalization has slowed down. And then here they said that we're very focused on getting inflation down to 2%. This is kind of one of those things that I think is there's a silver lining, not necessarily a good one, but a bad one kind of hidden underneath. I guess it's an undertone or whatever you want to call it. He wants to get it back down. He wants to get inflation back down to 2. What they should be trying to do is bring it right back down to where the curve should have been at 2%. We're at like 7 or 8%. So is he saying that he is fine with the 7 and 8%? He just wants future raises to go back to 2, or is he really trying to get it back to the curve? Is the question that I have. Our goal is to use tools to have a soft landing. That's obviously your goal, right?
Right.
The goal is to get inflation. Now, I said my goal is to get inflation down without a recession. So he's acknowledged the recession aspect of it, and that's his goal. He hasn't met his goal yet, so maybe it's maybe he'll get better next time. And in my view, it's appropriate to move more quickly, and it's on the table now. I think it's unbelievable that he said 50 and not 75. I think he meant 75, not 50, because if it's anything less than 25, it's going to be like a riot in DC again. Because
Yeah,
it's
the
unbelievable
markets.
that he's only talking.
Yeah,
But
the markets have already priced in with 98% probability a
yeah,
50% basis point move. So that shouldn't be what he's hedging. He should be
yeah,
hedging himself on a 75.
right. And everybody, everybody. The crazy part is everybody like was talking about it. So, and then another piece of this is the guard is also saying the same thing. Inflation is very very high. Inflation to expect to be more than double the target at the year end. We must address inflation in a gradual way. Waiting on data, and again, very very slow. Your exchange rate is clearly has an impact on inflation. We're not targeting any FX rates. ECB policy is about normalization, not tightening. So it's they want to go back to normal, but does normal mean what it should have been or what just going in the future? So kind of crazy. So that's been a big thing. Here's what I've never heard, but I've never seen it before. I've been mentioning the last couple of days about how the Bank of Japan has said that they'll intervene if it gets up to that 130 time frame. It's interesting that we have as much movement as we have, but the dollar yen has moved zero.
None.
Um, but what they're talking about, this is the balance sheet aspect. This was the other kind of hidden piece of it. A lot of people will see the Powell stuff and be like, well, we kind of knew that. And you're right. Behind the scenes, this is one of the things that a lot of people probably have not seen or heard of. Remember, there's two things, and I've been complaining about this. We're going to raise interest rates, but we have quantitative easing. They've talked about lowering the balance sheet. Well, it's now official. QE has officially ended. If you look at the weekly balance sheets, um, when you look at April 20th, it's roughly the same as March 16th and below the levels of March 23 and March 13. So they've officially actually, and they talk about how they fluctuate a little bit because of mortgage-backed securities. It's officially ended. They've completely flattened whatsoever and actually shrunk a little bit, showing us that, again, behind the scenes, they've actually ended quantitative easing, but didn't say anything about it. So it was kind of like, yeah, we'd like to lower the balance sheet and didn't give us data. It's actually happened. So this was probably the other kind of drop in the hat that we didn't see. And people may say, wow, that's a lot of movement when that's what we thought was going to happen. It probably has to do a lot more with this than it does actually his statements. Because again, we're propping the economy up, making it hot, versus the other side where we're trying to calm it back down again. So they've ended one piece, and again, we're kind of quiet about talking about it. So that's the other piece of it. But this is the piece that I think is very surprising, and I'm very interested to see how this works out.
Yeah, I don't know how they do
Um,
this.
yeah, I mean, I know how they do it. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that it's. I question actually the legality of it, because again, you can deem people currency manipulators when it comes to a certain extent. You know, and basically what we're talking about is they're talking about a joint intervention. Okay. Between the U.S., you can find the details here. The person that wrote this article says, "I think this is more of a verbal threat than anything else for now. Ideally, Japan officials want to slowly decline the yen, but I don't believe that we're a stage where both sides need to grade for a major intervention." The question is, I mean, it really goes back to what is the reason? And again, this is globally. This is not my opinion. Globally, what is the reason why the yen is falling? Number two, is there legality concerns about two nations trying to prop up one individual currency? When you do it to yourself, I mean, you're just releasing reserves and things like that. So it absolutely can be done. I mean, I don't know if you support one currency. I mean, the whole idea of the currency market is that it's supposed to be free flowing. When your country is bad, it gets weaker. When it's strong, it gets stronger. And they use the interest rates to kind of go back and forth. And when it gets kind of out of whack, again, like countries like Japan intervenes. Um, Never seen somebody as big as the United States doing it. And can they get dinged now for being a currency manipulator of another country? And are they meddling too much? Is really kind of the question. So I don't know. It's definitely something I've never seen before, and I've been looking at currencies for over 20 years. I've never seen a joint intervention before like this. And like I said, I don't even know legally. I mean, if China says you're artificially helping them out, why? I don't know that we have an answer for it. So yeah, I mean, it's strange. And again, remember the hot button for the dollar yen is 130. Here is what we're seeing. It's done nothing. That same zone, that 128.63, we talked about it hitting, it hit there, hit there, it hit there again, and now we're even below it. So no movement versus something like the dollar CAD that really we came down, we tagged that low figure. And from yesterday morning, we were sitting here. It's done nothing but go straight up because of those recorded comments. So, it's in reality, it's only where it was a week ago. So it's not like we're breaking through new highs or it's moved anywhere. It's just
A
basically gone to the
retrace.
upper end of the range yet. Yeah. I mean, we saw the grind up, we saw the push back down again, and then all of a sudden they make some comments and it's pushed back up. And it's not at new highs. Um, Aussie also continuing to drive lower. We talked about different targets to the downside. Some of this is again, if we're going to curb inflation, that is a very anti-gold sentiment, as well as we got the Westpac saying, hey, we're going to do a 40 basis point rate hike. And it's like 40? 40? Who's doing 40 now? Everybody's doing 50. 50 is the way to go. If you're doing less, the market is looking at that as overly weak. So again, it's not the strongest thing for their currency, and that's affecting the Aussie. Now, the pound the pound is taking it on the chops today. The pound is definitely it has a ton of movement. Come on. There we go. The pound dollar is down 165 and the pound yen is down 172. And we can see that the dollar yen is really up 30. It's not moving tons. The pound had absolutely horrible retail sales this morning. Started at 2 a.m. and they revised down lower last time, so it's a negative negative. We talk about a double double. This is a negative negative. So this is a bad for the pound on all fronts. It's gotten it's gotten crunched pretty good. The reality of this one also is, yes, it's retraced back again. It's actually still inside of the same fib curve that we drew. So, yeah, it's a lot of this is what happens. This is a lot of movement, but at the same time, it looks like an absolutely enormous number over here at 166. The reality of it is, if we go back up to a daily ATR, the daily ATR is 153. So right now, it's only moved a single daily ATR in the European session. If profit taking comes in, it's actually not necessarily as big of a move
Good.
as you would assume.
Yeah.
So it looks like a lot really fast, but it's still on there. And again, pound dollar, kind of the same scenario. And again, this is, interestingly enough, this pound, you would say that, oh my God, dollar strength. This is what happened from where that announcement came in. Absolutely zero from everything that Powell said. And then this morning at 2:30, 2 o'clock a.m., when this came out at 2 a.m., that's where all the movement came from. So it's not dollar strength. It
Yeah.
is pound weakness. So kind of an interesting layout there. And then if you look at the dollar index today, again, the pop came in really. I mean, we got the initial push. I mean, here's where we were yesterday morning. We did get a little bit of a push, but we were only in the kind of the middle of the range. Nothing happened. And then all of a sudden, when the pound data came out, as the pound not being as strong as everybody thought, that's where the dollar adjusted up, was in the European session. And now it's starting to falter a little bit. So it is interesting to see when the movements are actually happening and who's involved with it. Now, the VIX absolutely went crazy yesterday. The VIX was the Powell's statements were definitely not lost on the VIX. As soon as
Yeah.
that data came out, that's where this went crazy. It's like, oh my God, he made a hawkish. Well, I'm not going to say hawkish. It's somewhat hawkish because he said zero point 0.5. Like I said, I feel like he read the teleprompter wrong. It should have been 0.75 in that speech. But he talked about aggressively controlling it and getting it down faster. It's like, oh, who is this man, right?
And the
Um,
markets
I,
got slapped. I mean, the Dow
yeah.
dropped
So
400 points in a blink.
it did, and again, as it should have. I mean, this is what we're talking about, and it's funny that even though it's factored in at zero point 0.5, the fact that he's made such an adjustment to mention zero point 0.5, the markets did not like it very much. So again, we're still up high on the VIX. We really don't know a whole lot more. We just know the rest of the world is going to do it. All the equities are there. Gold, obviously, gold and silver both dropping lower as we expected. Again, anytime you mention those things, but all the commodities across the board also are lower. I mean, you know, oil, I love to say that it's down here, but it's still at 102.85. It's kind of tempered back a little bit. Again, it's kind of floating around some of the 50s in there. Natural gas also, again, kind of bouncing back and forth. It seems like it's maintaining and holding that 680. And again, we have no Ukraine headlines. It's all about what we're raising right now. And then the major currency moves, Bitcoin really unchanged. TLT still not in a great spot, lower than where we were, but nothing crazy. Looking at the equities, right now, this is we missed kind of the top in this one, but we saw a huge push down, and then really as of 4 o'clock, we've done nothing. Europeans didn't change it around. NQ, if you guys were paying attention yesterday, um, you guys see that we tagged this one almost dead on 14,276. I went back and watched the recording from yesterday to make sure that I said that with this group. I absolutely said that with this group, that we had nothing over here on the left, that if we went above this opening level, watch it pop all the way up and there's no sellers until 14,276. There was your result from that 14,276. Okay. Um, Once it stabilized itself at 4 o'clock, we've done nothing. So the question I have today for the markets, and really this is what I'm wondering, they're all in the red right now. VIX is a little bit higher. This morning, we have all the services, and again, CAD had amazing retail sales, even though they got completely slaughtered, right? Um, Yesterday, kind of a crazy movement for them. We should see some retracement because they blew their retail sales out. They were a double double on both core and the other side. So Canada is spending money left and right as well. Will our services data, or will one of the other headlines this morning kind of ruin what we saw? Again, like I said, here's another one. Underscore the importance of the commitment to FX commitments. Again, we're still talking about this, so I think there's still some headlines to drop. So equity wise, again, I think the big move is in. Can we see it close red today? Probably. I'd love to say we have a feel good Friday today, but the reality is, with everything that they mentioned yesterday, being aggressive, aggressive, aggressive. I know they want to try to avoid a session, but he did say it's my goal to do that. But his goal was also to control inflation, and we're at 40-year highs. And he said that our goal was to have it peak now, and that was our goal. It's not the goal anymore because they know that it's not happening. So I feel like today, for fundamental reasons, we could see it go lower. And maybe I'm wrong on it. Again, we're back at that. Remember in a YM that magical 34,500. We're there again. So, but we don't have any real buyers or signs of buying until much much lower down here at 34,323. So, you know, it's definitely drop it down to a 15-minute, and we're not really seeing too much action in really any of them right now. They're all kind of retracing and kind of almost hiding. I think they're waiting for the next shoe to drop on this one to kind of see really is there going to be another comment? What's going to happen with it? But none of them are really, I would say, none of them are really kind of leading the way, right? YM right now is down 0.34, NQ is down 0.07. That's down the least amount, but the charts all look exactly the same. They're all getting stuck in kind of this little bottom right here with a little bounce back and forth, and they almost look all the same. So there's no outlier right now for anything. So it's an interesting scenario. And like I said, I think we're gonna. I mean, look for
Well,
headlines.
we
What?
do
Go ahead.
have our the flash PMI later this morning. Um, I'm wondering
Yeah,
if
the 10 at 9:45. Again, it's hidden right behind the open. It may add a little bit to it, but I think like I said, I think they're still speaking right now. I think we're going to get some more headlines right now because they're starting to roll out. I think that's really going to be kind of where it is. And again, you see articles like this that the dollar is surging into the weekend. And you're right, the dollar is technically surging. I think today, I mean, again, it's not at a high anymore. When they wrote the article, it was high. Now it's pulling back. And in reality, look, there's a basing right here. If this breaks, we're in a racetrack, and this thing should head straight back down again. Question is, do we retrace all of these big European numbers going into Friday to equalize the market? I would say probably. I mean, all the pound data is already in, so it's not going to continue to get weak on that, but you're going to have profit taking from shorts. Dollar CAD, yeah, dollar CAD's rallying, but Canada just blew the retail sales out of the water. So we should start to see a bit of a retracement in that, right? We're already kind of peaking at a top. Um, Novice chart traders are going to look at this and say, like, wait a second, I know this pattern. This is a double top. I'm supposed to take this. Supposed to record it here to here, and when it breaks the neckline, I'm supposed to bring this back down, and that would make sense. I mean, this is where the next time buyers are. So there's a double top formation coming up in the dollar CAD. Again, it's on a 15-minute, so it looks a little bit strange. But the reality is, we've had great news here. We should see some, pushback again, and we should see some retracing. I mean, you could say that yesterday was a parabolic move. And we
yeah,
tend to see retracements and leveling. And again, people are off today. It's Passover, right? Today's Passover.
no, that was last week.
Okay, I think there's something to. My daughter goes to a Jewish school and she's off today
uh,
for some event. So I thought there was something today.
I should be
But
able to. I
also,
should be able to tell you that one, and I tell you I
good,
can't pull
good
that out
job,
of my
Todd.
head right now.
Yeah, good job, Todd. Um,
Oh
and
my
then
God, understands. She's super cool and very understanding.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And there was also some Brexit data as well that came in. I don't know how much that's going to play today. And then one other thing that I did hear, that I did read yesterday, Israel for the first time ever has sold dollars and started to buy Chinese yuan, as far as their bank holdings. First time ever, that they've done that. Now they're branching out as well. So again, another one of those reasons when people start hearing about that could also lead to a decline in the dollar today. So look for retracements, and again, drop down to the 15-minute charts. And look at those equities, see where the pullbacks are, and I would say see what the opening trend is, and then try to play the reversal of at 10:30 today. But if they harp on whatever session could look like, and I'm sure that's probably what the CNBC groups are going to do today, is like, well, whatever session, if they maintain a negative tone, I don't have I would say look for down a lot of the day, and then end of the day rally maybe just for an attempt at a feel good Friday. So
All right. With that, any questions for Nadex, please email us customerservice@nadex.com. Brian and I are both also accessible. Our email addresses are right up there. Brian is support@keeptradingsimple.com. So please feel free to email Brian at support@keeptradingsimple.com. I'm not going to recap everything that we discussed. FX definitely, currencies moving, weakness in the pound, um, weakness in the Aussie dollar, and a lot of this on the heels of what we did get out of Powell yesterday. And looks like we're going to have an interesting day in the equities markets as well. We'll see what the retail trader, how they want to position themselves for the weekend with the open in 25 minutes. Don't forget those PMI numbers coming out in a couple hours. We could see some action from that. And as Brian mentioned, that 10:30 reversals, check them out. We will be back on Monday, so I hope everyone enjoys their weekend. And until then, good luck in the markets, everyone. Thank you so much for joining.